Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you joining me today. Have you ever just felt like you are juggling a million things at once, making no progress, constantly busy, but just, like I said, not really getting anywhere? That's what we're going to talk about today, is how to get you to the next level, achieve your goals by simplifying and doing less in your life on a daily basis. Not only is this going to actually work towards getting you to the next level and increasing your quality of work, but it's actually going to help you on the emotional and mental side as well, because I find that this is easily the biggest cause of burnout from myself and from everybody else that I've worked with. And we're also going to identify some of the distractions that you think are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're not, or they're actually just flat out distractions as well. Okay. So the first step of what to do here is to really define what your current goal is. And so to give you some examples from like what is my 2025 goals? I have three. One is that I want to grow my business on the coaching side by 20%. So I needed to reverse engineer what that meant. Okay, so here's where I'm currently at. What does 20% mean? So what is the difference? Based off of that, what do I need my average cost per client to be? Which then means how many clients do I need to get? Which then tells me based off of my closing, how many leads do I need to get? How am I going to get those leads? Really, really trickle down, right? And once I get to how do I get those leads, that really tells me the action of how I'm going to grow, right? Because that's really the missing component. There's other ways that I could do it, but I personally believe that my biggest issue is lead generation. So the question is, how do I do that? Then I'm looking at my career side. I want to, while I am a current director, I don't think I'm going to be ready for VP or C level by the end of the year. But the goal for this year is to, at a bare minimum, identify the gaps between where I'm at in director and that VP or C level executive within my line of work, and go, okay, here's where my deficiencies are, or here's where my gaps are. Now let's create a roadmap to accomplish those things. And that roadmap is actually a set of actions. So it's not just saying, hey, I really lack translating initiatives into revenue, and then that revenue in the way that an actual finance or CFO or controller type person would really recognize it, right? But it's okay. Then what are the set of actions that will true that up? Am I going to get formal education? Am I going to get a certification? Do I need to become a member of a professional organization that might give me that insight? Do I need to go take a Udemy or Coursera class? Like, just providing these, what are the actual tangible steps to get me there? And then the third initiative that I really want to have is really just continuing to improve my relationship with my wife and my marriage for a better quality of life. That always needs to be in the background for me. And being fully transparent and honest, right? It is an ebb and flow as to how that one goes, because we do have lofty life goals for what my wife and I want to achieve. And so sometimes that means our relationship takes a slight back seat for a season. And sometimes it's the priority because I don't need to invest so much time in the other two, because I'm not looking to grow or improve. And it's much more of, hey, I made a bunch of change. Now I need to just execute. So because I'm just in execution phase, time over here raises, creating what this balancing is. So you need to identify what those goals are, then break those goals down into the actual tangible how. What are the steps that I'm going to take? What are the actions I'm going to take? Not just this is what I need to do, or this is the skill I need to acquire, but how are you going to acquire it? What is your timeline for acquiring? What is the order of operations based off of biggest impact to lowest impact, right? Really map that out. That's where most people fail in the roadmap, and where they also fail to having this list of 50 things is they see, if we use my business example, right, of ultimately I boiled down to, I need to generate leads. Sweet. How am I going to generate leads? I can either pay for ads, I can create content, I can cold reach out to people, I could buy an email list, I could purchase tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, whatever. Like, you go down the list. Okay. But then you look at like what your constraints are, or what you believe that you want to do in the long run as well, right? And for me, very, very quickly, I was able to narrow it down to, the couple different actions, right? I needed to revamp my website. I needed to SEO it. And I also needed to, in my opinion, increase my audience from a content perspective. And so, because I want to, at the end of the day, why I get into this is to provide value. So I want to provide this value out to everybody as much as I can. And that's why I'm on every major platform now, right? So that was a big way that I was trying to grow the business. So I broke it down into the 2 specific actions that I needed to do. And I have a couple things to wrap up there. And that's going to be the big shift in my Q1. Is Q1, I still have some changes to wrap up. And then from Q2 through 4, my plan is to just execute and kind of organically morph. So if something realizes or if there's an opportunity, then I can pounce on it and take it, et cetera. But otherwise, like I really see my year of 2025 from a business and career perspective being a lot more execution / identifying the opportunity more than it is morphing and doing a bunch of changes, which will free up time for me to invest in my relationship after Q1 of this year. So you really want to look at everything you have. And when you boil down to the small set of actions that you need to take to achieve whatever goal you've defined, and then you look at all of the actions that you are taking in a day or all the things on your to-do list or whatever it is, ask the simple question: is this working towards my goal? Yes or no? And if it's no, then you cut it. It is not for this season. It's that simple, right? And so even while you can say that I have 3 sets of goals on any given quarter at any given time, because I am never all in on just my family or all in on my career or all in on my business, right? It is split between them. But here's the thing. I build my life around 16-hour functional days. And I try to give myself 1 day off, which is Sunday, or it's just pure overflow. So if I do that, I have 16-hour days. You could probably cut out 2 hours of that in terms of having to like cook and do small things and, maybe take care of my dogs, etc. Okay, so now I'm at 14 hours. Let's just say I evenly divided that 14 hours amongst 3 things. That's over 4.5 hours dedicated to each thing. If you focus for 4.5 hours on any particular goal every single day, how close are you to getting that a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, however lofty the goal is, right? You can achieve a lot in 4.5 hours of focus. So this is why, even if you narrow it and you still are like, okay, I got these 3 sets of goals and each of them have 3 actions that are going to lead to it on any given day. So I got 9 actions to take. 9 actions in 14 hours still gets you a lot of time to invest in each action. And I doubt that every single action is a long thing, right? So that is step 1 to this. Identify the goal. Break down the goal into these small, specific action items, the actual tangible things that you are going to do, how long it's going to take you to do them, how much time you can invest on a daily basis, and that gives you your deadline to have it accomplished, okay? Second is we're going to try to identify where you're wasting time right now. So aside from just cutting out the stuff that's not achieving to your goal, you probably have things like watching Netflix or social media, or even just constantly checking email or things like that, where it's just diverting your attention and making you switch gears. And this is actually one of the key components of where people have burnout, is they think that by going on social media, it's relaxing their brain. And it's like, oh, this is my disconnecting time. I'm recharging. You're not. Your brain is still engaged. It's still very active. It's still causing a hormonal response and a shift in your biochemistry. It is still an activity. Okay. So the way I like to go about identifying where you're wasting time is take a week or 2 weeks and do a time study. And this is going to be manual and boring and terrible, but I promise you it will pay for itself tenfold. Okay. So what I like to do is make an Excel spreadsheet, do it in 15 or 30 minute intervals. And every interval, essentially, so every 15 minutes or 30 minutes, you are going to quickly bullet summarize what you did in that time. And you are going to find a couple different things that you're looking for. You are going to realize, holy smokes, I am spending so much time on social media, or I'm spending so many times per hour checking email, or whatever it might be. Okay, because if you're breaking your life down into 15 or 30 minute blocks, you should maybe be doing 1-2 things in each of those blocks. Okay, because if you're not even dedicating 15 minutes of focus to something or 30 minutes of focus to something, you're really not making progress. And think about this for anything in your life, right? If you have to clean your house, cook dinner, take care of your kids, spend quality time with your family, whatever, these things are kind of universal, right? If you didn't dedicate at least 15 minutes, did you actually do something and make progress? No. Like, this is obvious, right? So if you're breaking your time tracking into these small intervals, you should have 1, maybe 2 tops of things in each of these. Okay. So you're both going to identify how you're constantly switching gears. And then because you're constantly switching gears, you're not actually making progress. And the second thing is when you add up the time cumulatively spent in a variety of areas. So if it's like, hey, here's where I spent on social media. Here's where I spent streaming. Here's what I spent on this new project. Here's what I spent on QAing my work. And here's what I spent on meetings. And here's what I spent on client calls. Like whatever your categories are. And when you look at that ratio, you're going to go, holy smokes, I am spending way too much time on blank. Then the question is, do you cut it? Like, is it something like social media where it's just, okay, it's gone. Like, I'm just going to cut it out of my life. Or is it something where you need to look at an efficiency gain? I'm spending 4 hours a day checking and responding to emails. Okay, well, that's half of my day from an 8-hour working perspective, or even that's 10% of my work week from a 40-hour perspective, right? Every single day. How can I make this more streamlined? What tool can I get? Or what process can I revamp, right? So doing these things, identifying what your big rocks are, what's the 80-20 rule? The Pareto principle is a principle for a reason. It never fails. What are the actions that are going to allow 20% of my overall input to give me 80% of the results? Let me prioritize those, execute on those. Where am I spending time that I should not be spending, or where am I not focusing when I should be focusing, right? These are the questions of how you identify what are my fewer activities to get maximum results, and how do I invest as much time in those few activities? And this is going to lead into the whole concept of less but better. And this is how you embrace this, by having fewer things dividing your attention. It allows deeper focus, higher quality output. Okay. So if we look at, for instance, my lead gen concept, I mentioned that's a huge aspect of my business, of what I believe to be the problem this year. So I looked at it, and last year I was doing so many things. I was trying to follow up with previous clients. I was doing manual follow-ups on every single prospect without qualification of the lead. I experimented paying for ads, doing it on Google Ads, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I was doing content creation, writing blogs, making videos for LinkedIn, trying to create a referral system, setting up a CRM, revamping my website, like just so many different things. And it just took so long to get any of them actually done. And what I realized was, okay, so I'm getting a decent chunk of leads from LinkedIn. Beautiful. Okay. I get the vast majority of my close rate, for instance. I have 90% of a close rate when people take my quiz and book a consultation. So how do I funnel into that, right? These ads, I've just wasted $2,000 and gotten jack. Not a single lead. Not worth it. Not ready for it, right? I need to take the time to learn those skills, and I don't have the time right now. So it was really, and then because my quiz is on my website, it was, well, how do I get people to my website? And then how do I get them into the quiz, right? So it was these sorts of things. Or looking at my IT career, right? So one of the things that I identified in my last company was we had project management issues. We had ticket handling issues. We had personnel issues. And we also had customer relationship issues. So I was like, okay, so who's our biggest problem to solve here? Well, what are the customer issues? The customer issues were in relation to the ticket resolution. Okay, so I can kill two birds with one stone here. Let's revamp our ticketing process and handling of problems. Boom. Got that nailed down, got that executed. Okay, now we have a 98% customer satisfaction. We cut our resolution time by 70%. And now people also have more free time to grow themselves and work on their growth path and career progression. Beautiful. Now, the next side of that is the next side of customer satisfaction is actually making people's lives better. So now we're talking projects. How do we consistently do this? Now, it was also, I realized it was a ground up overhaul. So I had to piece it along, right? I forget the working law that this is, but essentially when you are iterating upon implementation of something, it should be functional all along the way. So the example that I like here, right, is you shouldn't be you shouldn't have your milestones like a car of, okay, I'm going to build the chassis, and then I'm going to add on axles, and then I'm going to add on the body, and then I'm going to add in windows, and then I'm going to add in wheels, and then I'm going to add the engine, right? Like none of these things are functional prototypes in the end. Instead, it should be like, how do I build a skateboard? Okay, now how do I put on handlebars? Now, how do I attach an engine? Like each thing is functional, right? Like you can move faster with the skateboard. You can then steer it with handlebars. You can then go faster with an engine. Right? Like how do I then build a protective chassis, right? Like each piece is functional all along the way. So that's what I had to do for the project management process. And it took 6 months to fully revamp and adopt across the department what that process was. And so this is where just what is the 20% effort for 80% gain, and how do I do that one after the other, after the other, after the other? End result, initiative completed, adoption had, boom, on to the next one, right? And so this is how you make less but better, is you prioritize what is going to make the biggest impact. And if it wasn't for realizing that, hey, we have bad customer satisfaction and we have bad ticketing, and customer satisfaction is down due to the lack of ticketing and process, boom, I have 4 big issues in my department. I could solve 2 of them with one thing. That is the definition of less but better, okay? And it allowed the entire department to focus on that, not just me as the leader. So this is how you do that, right? It is just looking at all of those things and going, what is going to give me the 80% return for the 20% investment? Okay. Now, part of this is going to be, it's rooted in data. And here's the thing, you might not know. So you might end up doing something, having to test it and realizing your return on investment is freaking atrocious. Okay. Drop it and replace it with something else, right? And understand that this is going to be a constant ebb and flow depending on what season of life you are in and what your goals are. But having less things to focus on is going to get you more because you have more time to invest in that actual progress. And so even if we take this outside of myself and we look at some of the clients that I've worked with, okay? So one of the key things that I've helped multiple clients build for a new job is a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Most people try to flood their 30, 60, 90 with trying to be this grandiose employee that is going to come in and revolutionize the world in 90 days. But you're not. You don't understand the organization at large. You don't understand the mechanics. You don't know where they've been and what they've tried and how they failed and why they failed and where they succeeded and why they succeeded. You don't know that, right? So your first 90 days is really about 3 things. 1, identifying tiny wins that you can get done. 2, get done those tiny wins. 3, building relationships. If you have 90 days to do those 3 things, how much more likely are you to succeed in your 90-day plan? You break that down into the set of actions. Okay, so I'm going to build relationships by meeting with the other department leaders or meeting with other people throughout the company. I'm going to pick 1 person a week. Okay, boom. Now you've met a bunch of different people and a bunch of different leaders. Okay, you need to identify opportunities. Awesome. I'm going to come in. I'm going to learn the training. I'm going to follow the SOPs. I'm going to work for a few weeks. And every time that I dread what I'm about to do, or in my brain, I go, well, this is a stupid process. This could be better. Or I've already done this better before. Just notate it. Keep it to yourself, right? Then the third objective is once you've identified things and you have a broader understanding of the business as to what other people's pain points are and what they like about working there and dislike about working there, blah, 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 you can then create and potentially start solving some of the small wins. How can you make your department function better? How can you make you function better? How can you make your leader look better? What problem can you solve for another department and maybe get their buy-in into another initiative that's cross-department related, right? That type of stuff is so much more achievable. You have 30 days to build relationships, 30 days to get stuff done, and 30 days to learn about what to do. That's what 90 days and 3 objectives looks like. Do you think you can do that? That's a perfect example here. And that's the core philosophy when I'm working with people and building 30, 60, 90-day plans that they just fundamentally miss. They just come in and try to revolutionize the world and make so many commitments and promises. That's not what that is. That's not how you're successful. You pick the few things that get you maximum return and go all in on those few things. And that might not be equal distribution, right? So again, I just mentioned you have 3 things to do in 90 days. What it might actually end up being is 30 days of identifying, 10 days of building relationships, And that leaves 50 days of making small wins on what you discovered in the 30 days, right? So it's not that you have to do this equal, even distribution, but it's simply taking that broad spectrum, taking the step back and identifying what are the 20% of things that are going to give me 80% of return. Where am I wasting time? Where am I not doing the thing? Let's chop all that out. Let's focus on the few set of actions, execute, build the rapport as someone that executes and gets stuff done. And that's what's going to take you over and over and over again to being promoted and looked at and always sought after within your marketplace, within your company, or whatever it is that you are trying to do, whether it's inside a company or not. Okay, so quick small set of actions. List all of your current commitments, rank them by importance on the goals that you are trying to achieve. Eliminate everything, but probably 10 or 20%, because that's what it's really going to be. Those are going to be your biggest rocks. Then what you want to do is, as you are working this through, you want to schedule some regular sessions, maybe monthly or quarterly, to saying, hey, are my set of actions still the correct ones? And you rinse and repeat. Okay? That's the biggest thing. Understand that you don't have to do 50 things every day. You have to do a few things every day, do them well, and execute them. Consistency. Okay? This simplicity and less but better is not about doing less for the sake of laziness. It's about taking all of the effort and energy that you have, putting it into a few things. Okay? So here's what I want you to do today. Take 15 minutes and go through this exercise. List what you're doing on a daily basis. Eliminate everything but the biggest rocks, probably 10 to 20%. So eliminate 80 to 90% of it. Execute tomorrow. Can we do that? Awesome. All right. So if you have any questions, any feedback, anything about this video, leave it in the comments below. I will respond to every single comment every single time. If you like this content, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, subscribe to this channel. We are also live on Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. So check us out there. And I really appreciate you joining me today. And until next time, thank you.